Good morning, Fiji, and welcome to another episode of the Brunch on MaiTV. I'm Stanley Simpson. No Jackie Spade today. She was cheering too strongly for her daughter at the regatta in Nandi over the weekend and lost her voice. But I hope you've had a great long weekend despite the extreme weather conditions we are currently facing. Speaking of which, please be extra vigilant over the next few days. Stay away from flooded streams and rivers. Pay extra attention to your children's movements. Drive safely on our roads, and please stay up to date with the latest advisories being put out by the various government agencies. Joining me in the studio today to discuss emergency response amongst a range of other issues, politics, economics, social, is Executive Director of the Fiji Council of Social Services, Vani. Good morning, Vani. So many things happening in the country right now. We've got Constitutional Review Committee on the Constitutional Review Committee on the Constitution.
Right.
Then we've got a fuel price increase, which the people are still adjusting to. And then now we've got this natural disaster where evacuation centers are evacuated, schools are shut.
Right.
You know, how do you think, are the people of Fiji prepared for this? Are the government prepared? How are you seeing that the ability of us to absorb and handle this?
Well, I'd say it isn't the first time that we are handling multiple, crises, if you like. But it's a different leadership. I think we had one for 16 years, and they had experience doing that. So I feel, I guess, moderately confident that the public service is able to handle some of this. I think it's the new leadership that needs to get on top of some of these issues. I think that so far they haven't been able to do communications really well. It's been out in the public how that's been communicated.
Yes, I'd just like to cut in there because that seems to be an issue that they're trying to address. And I think with that communications workship they had, a week
ago, yes.
They seem to be trying to address that strongly because what's causing a lot more confusion and uncertainty is the communication. There'll be no fuel price increase.
Yes.
Suddenly there's a fuel price increase.
Yes.
So mismatch. Then we had on Friday we had that national address to the country where we said that we were told 2-3 hours before Prime Minister will come on.
Yes.
Suddenly, 10 minutes before, it's the Honorable Linda Tambuya. So, it's causing a bit of confusion.
Yes. I think it's, one of the things that we really, have to perhaps ask the coalition government to do better is communications. They are trying. I think moving the minister, perhaps Linda Tambuya, there was an attempt to address some of that, and I see that she's really tried to pull together, some strategies, that comms workshop. I'm also happy to share that. FCOSS is part of the comms cluster under the disaster coordination.
There's great collaboration.
Great
coordination.
Yeah, and she's really just recently reactivated the comms cluster. So you can see that there's some attempts to address that, but I think the workshop is also needed at the leadership level. What's their message?
I agree.
Yeah.
Because you can have the best MLOs.
Yes.
If the key person is the minister and the permanent secretary, if they're not willing to be speaking, there's just going to be a disconnect.
Yes.
And so that's an issue. And then this is all happening in a time of misinformation, disinformation, a lot of views coming. Government really needs to be clear about the talking points, the communication messages that's coming through it. How are you seeing that that's played out with this, just what's happened over the weekend with the tropical depression that's now turned into a cyclone?
Well, we're used to Vasiti Soko. She's, very dynamic. So it's a change. Perhaps seeing, the permanent secretary come out, Miti Elidama, and of course Napoleon Bosiwango is the acting director. So for some of us who've worked closely with the old guard, it's taking us some time to get used to that. But I think Napoleon, for his part, is very, he does planning really well. So he doesn't do comes just, he's very measured in the way that he issues,
We did ask him to join us on the show this morning.
And he didn't?
I don't think I don't know. I don't know whether they really were busy or they had cold feet. You never know. But, my sense is they need to be more engaged.
That's right.
This is us talking to the public.
Yes.
We'll move on now. I think we have Fred Wesley. We'll get back to Vani, talk around range of other issues. You responded to the GCC statement.
Sure.
And we might talk on that later on in the show. But now we cross to Fred at the Fiji Times newsroom. Good morning, Fred.
Hey, morning, and morning, Vani.
I was interested, your front page today was fuel price debate. Jamie, can we bring that front page up if we have it? And, it wasn't the cyclone, so why fuel over the cyclone? I mean, cyclone's on the side there, but can you address why you felt this was an important issue to discuss?
Ken, thank you for having me. We had to mull over that night. We decided that we'd keep both of them. So last night at the time, just before press, we then decided that the fuel price debate was something very, very different. This is a senior international economist, igniting strong debate. Actually, claiming that something is amiss with a staggering April 1 fuel price rise. But it doesn't take away the fact that there's a lot going on in terms of cyclone, which is why we put that up as well. But again, said this, we are not immune to the troubles of the world and this fuel crisis. But you've actually mentioned it, and Vani has mentioned it as well. Everything's coming together at one time, and it's a pretty challenging scenario for anyone out there.
In the civil society sector,
Yes.
obviously government's facing the challenges.
That's right.
We in the media, keeping up with everything that's happening and making sure that everyone's voice is heard is also a challenge. So Fred, I just wanted to, what is he saying? He's saying that the FCC got it wrong, or somebody's playing dirty games? I mean, what the headline says, senior economist claims something amiss. What's amiss?
Yes. Well, Dr. Kisti Sen is actually saying that the 21% surge defies established logic. And he's suggesting the Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission may have utilized incorrect data. But again, it's his opinion. The government has obviously come out and said what it had to last week. I think the Minister for Information, Linda Tambuya, actually talking about that as well. This is a different view.
That's interesting. I'd like to see what FCOSS had to say. You've, I mean, we're not in the business of calculating what should be the increase and all that, but it did come as a surprise, didn't it, friends? Especially after the PM statement that and the government statement that we had enough fuel to last us till May. There were still some shipments on the way. We were well covered, telling the public not to panic. And then that sudden announcement that came in the evening. So I mean, it's good that we talk about how they calculate these things and how that came to be. But Vani, what impacts are you seeing, and who is feeling these impacts?
I mean, for us, our members in the Central, Western, and Northern Division, they've already started talking about how fuel prices will impact at the household level. And some of the, our members in the Central Division, in the informal settlements, have already said that it's going to impact those who rely on public transport. So, reaching Suva, there are those who often rely on taxis when they work odd hours. So it's going to really affect them at that level. Commuters, also those, we noticed that the price of kerosene was the one that rose very sharply. So those who...
I saw that. That means that has an impact on household
at household level.
household
Yes.
level. Eh?
Yeah, in terms of meals. You know, for some, you know, gas prices or gas cylinders are out of the question. They rely on kerosene, they rely on firewood. So we've got to expect that it's going to affect food security for some, you know, meals not being served that, you know, we'll see very simple meals being served, hopefully. In the Western Division, you know, our Low Toka office was saying it's going to affect the elderly and those with limited mobility.
And I was thinking also of the people traveling from Yasao, you know, those that use those maritime routes, the fuel that...
The highlands,
Highlands. It's... but look, you know, the government can only do so much. So I think what we really can do is try and manage the situation.
Yes.
So what, Fred, what's the discussion, the reports you're getting on how we can better manage the situation? Look, the increase will come. Yeah. There's a war going on in the Middle East, which is out of control. I mean, really, it shows our vulnerability here in the Pacific, a country like Fiji. So, changing behavior? What's some of the things that you've reported or some of the people you've interviewed have been saying?
Well, Stan, thank you. Let me just touch first on what Dr. Sen has said. You know, he's actually saying that while he expected a modest increase, you know, the spike that happened, he feels was premature. And you know, I mean, when he factors in global prices and all of that, and also I'm mindful of our international coverage on what's happening in the Gulf states and the Middle East. Mindful of the warning that's been issued by the U.S. President Donald Trump, and so Iran responding to that, and also the fact that Iran's still allowing oil tankers to go through the Strait of Hormuz. So fingers crossed that these tankers will get to the Asian countries, and we may not an issue. But unfortunately, the reality is there is a problem, and we've been touching base with what's happening around the ground here in the country. And you look at our front page today, we have both drivers at Natali landing in Reo, and they're already feeling the pinch. They're already talking about fuel price and fuel hike, and they're already talking about how it's going to impact them. But I suppose there are contingencies that we need to be mindful of, and I'm glad that the Prime Minister did highlight some of that yesterday. But I still felt that you know, we unfortunately contingencies came in a bit later than other countries. And,
it is a bit late. I
you know,
agree.
that's probably something that we should have addressed much earlier.
I think this is a critical infrastructure, and we need a long-term plan. We can't just, when something happens like this, and then we try and react and respond. It's too late. You know, months. This is like you need years in planning. And I know in some of the past fuel hikes, FCOSS, you've talked about moving to investing in green energy, clean energy. You know, how practical is that? Do you think that's a real, you know, something that we can get into that can effectively address the situation?
Yeah, I mean, our hope was that we would be proactive and that situations like this would not, you know, impact us so negatively. But, you know, if we had acted on this, so for example, in 2023, we had made submissions on that. And I think, you know, government did attempt. There were some discussions with the EFL. You're familiar with, you know, what was perhaps not progressed in the last few years, even though we have a strategy, a policy on renewable energy, it was just in paper. So now we're really just trying to catch up. But, you know, there's a war going on, and we have yet to see the, you know, the implications of that. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right.
We need to do better to absorb this, a plan to absorb these global shocks.
Yeah, and I think our forecasting in terms of, you know, in governance systems are not working quite well, you know. You know, like when I look back at how we could have, you know, better anticipated this, you know, we should be also looking at our foreign policy. How are we engaging? Who are we engaging with? All of those things. But it's too late to talk about that now. How do
Maybe
we prepare households?
it's a good opportunity for us to learn and be better prepared for the future.
Yes.
Don't go away. We'll be back after the break. I'm here with Vani, the Executive Director of the Fiji Council of Social Services, and the Editor-in-Chief of the Fiji Times, Mr. Fred Wesley. Will be back after the break. Welcome back. You're watching the Brunch on MaiTV. We are joined in the studio by Executive Director of the Fiji Council of Social Services, Vani, as well as the Fiji Times Editor-in-Chief, Mr. Fred Wesley. We've got quite a, like as we mentioned in the first segment, Cyclone Vaianu, and it's Vaianu, right?
Yes.
And fuel price increase that came in the last week, and then we have all this Constitutional Review Commission and talk of the referendums, municipal council elections coming up. But before we continue on these discussions, Fred, one of the stories that you covered over the weekend really touched me. It was about, I think it touched me because children were involved.
Yeah.
And I saw the coverage of them, in Resurrection Sunday, and the father was trying to make a living for them, and he apparently passed away. The story in Ba. Fred, can you tell me about that, and how did you guys cover that? Not an easy story.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Stan. The story was actually about a very, very young family. Four children. Their mom had died last year, and their father had gone missing on a Saturday night. Well, there was a suspicion that he'd be probably found, but they couldn't find the body. So on Resurrection Sunday, the four children went to church, go to work, and after church they came out on Resurrection Sunday to the announcement that the body of their father had been found. He had gone get muscles. I think it was for their Sunday. But pretty sad story. For us, it's about basically about life, and how fragile life can be, and how we need to be mindful of that, and how we need to be placing value on life. So certainly a sad story, but many lessons there for all of us.
When you see something like that, mother died last year. I mean, this is a lot of families in Fiji. Some broken families, some lost to tragedy. This one, mother passed away last year, and dad. I mean, people are putting themselves at risk almost every time, to go and look for. Some people like to look for livelihoods, even those that go out at sea. This is even the river. It's a struggle.
Yeah, it's quite tragic because it's a single father. So usually there's support for the single mother in communities, but there's this belief that a single father has it covered. And so I'm just thinking about how much he struggled before passing on. Did the community even sense that he needed that support? And the fact that he went looking for mussels during flooding. So you can tell how desperate the situation may have
Something
been,
for their Sunday lunch. He really wanted them to have a good Sunday lunch. And four daughters coming out of church service to face that. Just said to you. So when the Council of Social Services, when you see something like that, what kind of support will those four girls, with the tragedy, what kind of support can they get, or what should government do?
I guess it's also looking at how community
and of course
structures,
the community,
community structures. This is the importance of looking at community structures because they basically form the social safety net, particularly for those outside of, urban areas where, support for the girls can be easily accessed. In rural areas, sometimes they don't even know that there are support, packages for single fathers, those who are struggling, that are available at the Ministry of Social Welfare, Ministry of Social Protection, NGOs. So communities, we often rely on that to sort of look into the issues of those who are weak, those who are vulnerable. But, you know, as we're seeing now, there are people who are struggling out there alone, you know, and these issues around disaster does, you know, exacerbates the vulnerability that their families face. Now those 4 children, those 4 girls are going to grow out without parents. Who's going to look after them, you know? We really have to look into these issues.
This is where, you know, we've always talked in the past that we have a strong family, extended
Yeah.
family structure. This is where we hope it's still strong in these areas.
But it's not.
It's not?
It's not. That's what we're seeing in our work, that we often romanticize the idea that Fiji has all of these safety nets, you know, this community support, but this is why FCOSS continues to exist, is that we see that these are breaking down, you know, and so often we take it for
That's
granted.
sad to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, sometimes we're shocked by the situations we face when we got into
Because we will assume, I mean, when we grew up, that there's always going to be an auntie, a
Yes.
grandparents, you
Yes.
know, the extended
right.
family, uncles, that's going to take care of. You're saying that that's breaking down?
It's breaking down, and our values are quickly changing, you know, and I had hoped that there would be, you know, better support for churches to go in and do that kind of work, because they do that already. I'd also hoped that the Great Council of Chiefs would, you know, having been re-established, that they'd look into the structures. You know, this is where, you know, their calling is. I feel that very much, because for us as NGOs, we go in, and some of us are membership-based. We are lucky in that sense that we stay with communities for a longer time. But, you know, there are people that they sort of look up to, and one of them is the GCC, you know, and so
we need to become relevant, more relevant in this day and age. So this is also, you know, when we talked about the fuel increase, I was thinking the other day, you know, we used to romanticize that when there's a global crisis, Fiji is the best place to be, because you can go to the garden, the sea is out there, you know, we're full of resources. But again, that's challenge. That's not, you know, that's
very much challenge. You know, with disasters,
that's not really the reality anymore.
I mean, like when you look at informal settlements, there's very little land that they can do their backyard gardening in. Then you think about rural areas and the amount of cyclones we have to deal with, flooding. It's just, you know, those options that we had, you know, go back to the land, it's no longer there. Even when we go back to the land, you know, there's always that risk that everything you've just planted will be washed away.
Even that talk about, people say, go back to the village, go back to
That's
rural.
right.
We saw that in COVID, it doesn't always, I mean, it's a good safety net, but it's more challenging and more than what it's, when you said just that casually. Fred, you also, there's another front page story that's what I wanted to discuss with you before I move on. About on the front page today on your father 6 closure. What's that about?
Stan, sorry, I didn't hear that.
Sorry, your other front page story also involving a father, I see here, father 6 closure, also on today's front page. What's that story about?
Oh, yes, Stan. This father, he from Naila, here in Pailevu. His daughter apparently had moved across to Toka, and 3 months ago, body was found at the children's park in Lautoka. The father moved from Naila to Lautoka to try and get some closure. And to date, nothing's been said. The police investigations are continuing, and the father is hopeful that there will be some closure. But it's an unfortunate end, and also an unfortunate story for a father who's lamenting the loss of his daughter.
Vani, this is, you know, this is a 19-year-old girl, or is this a teenage girl that was found
Yes,
at the children's park?
that was found in Lautoka.
Yeah, and at the time there's talk about, you know, but this is you know, terrible when you see families having waiting on this kind of news, and fathers losing their you know, their daughters and having to try and, you know. But, for me, I was just wondering, like, we're seeing a bit more, too much of this now. People going missing, people dying. You know, what's your sense of what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was, it takes me back to 2018 when the US state report was issued around, and it did allude to cases of human trafficking and all of that. And so all these mysterious disappearances. I think last week I was looking at a coverage of children who had gone missing, and it had all of their photos. And I was thinking, great, it's just now coming to the public that this is happening. I think, again, I'm going back to the issue around community networks and community safety nets, because usually, like, if you're, if you're from Neilatele, sometimes you call your relatives, talk, look, my daughter is coming across to work. Can you just check in on her regularly just to make sure? Those kinds of things used to happen when we were younger, even when I'd go for like a school trip to Lautoka, my dad would call ahead to
all
relatives.
All the connections will be activated.
Yeah.
So,
but so these things are really worrying. We may not really see the connections, but we see it from the Fiji Council of Social Services that because these relationships, these networks are breaking down, there's a lot more risks, there's a lot more harm. We need to do safeguarding for our children, for the elderly.
Yeah.
Because, before those values of, about looking after your elderly, offering them the seats, buses are not even built to look after.
And the fact is, children, whatever they're doing, should not, daughters, people should not be dying at children's parks.
Exactly.
If people going there, even whatever they're doing, they should be safe. Yes, children's park. Yeah. So sad story. And just telling the people of Fiji what's happening in our country, things that we really need to look out for. Don't go away. We'll be back after the break.
Bula, and welcome back to Extra Quick Recipe. Today we're preparing a simple, nutritious tuna and avocado power bowl, packed with protein and healthy fats to support heart and muscle health. Start by dicing your ripe avocado and fresh tomato, then add them into the bowl. Avocado provides healthy fats that are good for heart health, while tomatoes add freshness and important vitamins. Add your canned tuna. Tuna is an excellent source of lean protein, helping to build and squeeze fresh lemon or lime juice over the mixture to enhance the flavor and add a boost of vitamin C. Gently mix everything together until well combined. Sprinkle a little black pepper for seasoning. Just like that, your tuna and avocado power bowl is ready to serve. Quick, healthy, and full of nutrients your body needs.
Welcome back. You're watching the Brunch Show on MaiTV. So many things to discuss. I seem to don't know where to start. There's so many interesting tangents of issues where it's going. But I wanted to just carry on from that tragic story that was in the front page of the Fiji Times today. Fred, about that father looking for his daughter, searching for answers for his daughter that was found in the children's park. I mean, someone's died, and we're seeing a lot of people being found in places. But the killers, that shows there's something wrong out there. We're not finding who has committed these deaths or murders or how they've died. And so it really raises an interesting question, alarming to a certain extent, that something's not right. Fred, did you hear me?
Yes, yes. Yes, Ken. Thank you. I think what we need to be talking about here is is life, and how much value we place on life. And I mean, when people are dying like this and they are found in places like a children's park, at a sugarcane field, at mangroves, like, I mean, the people are dying. Yeah, young people are dying, and it's scary. It's scary that there are people out there who actually killing people, who kill people, and the other scary part here is the fact that it's taken quite some time for police to round up the investigations, and it's just opens up a whole. I mean, the dynamics have changed, and it raises a lot of questions that we need to be asking as as members of society. Are we living in a fragmented society now where where these things sort of become the norm? And that's pretty scary.
and the social issues that come with it. It's leading to a lot of lack of trust,
Yes.
uncertainty, suspicion.
Yeah.
That's not healthy for our society. Eh?
Yeah, I guess, Fred, one of the things you said is that young people are dying. In this case, people are getting killed. Young people are getting killed. Eh? Let's just put
Call
that
it what
in,
it is.
put that in that right frame. Young people are being murdered. Okay, so why is it that a lot of cases are still not resolved, or families are still seeking closures? We have to look at the integrity of institutions, the ability of maybe their capacity to resolve murders. Like a father seeking closure in Lautoka, has had to relocate to Lautoka from Nela. We really have to also question the sense of impunity that seems to be, pervasive in society right now, because there are murders after, one another. In like week after week, we hear about, bodies being found here, mutilated, stuff like that. It's stuff of horror movies. We didn't imagine that we'd have a Fiji like this, but that's what we have to deal with.
What can society do? What should we do?
Yeah, I mean, I think
You've been involved in a lot of these stakeholder discussions. Generally, from a wider perspective, what should be done for us to rebuild trust and be able to effectively address the challenges that we're facing?
Yeah, I think we really just have to play out our role. If you're a mother, be a mother. If you're a father, be a father. Raise the questions you have to. It may not be pleasant, but you might be saving a life.
But that's not that's an ideal situation,
Yes.
Vani. But right now we see broken families.
That's right.
Kids living with with relatives. Sometimes because they have to come and better their education.
That's
or
right.
go and find a job somewhere.
That's right.
So family breakdown.
Yes.
So we've got to. How do we get into that gap and fix it?
Yeah, I remember going to a Fiji Council of Churches meeting and apologizing to them because, civil society, some parts of civil society feel they have to butt out of things. But I feel like, there's not enough voices airing their concerns. I think we've come out of a climate of fear, and we were told that you need to keep your opinions to yourself, mind your own business. In the long run, that doesn't support a good society.
So stakeholders, community stakeholders, churches, the chiefs, the whole
Yes.
range, the government,
Yes.
the civil society,
Yes.
all really need to come together on this. I'll just jump from that, very interesting discussion. Food for thought for us this morning. But I just want to go touch on the latest on this tropical cyclone that's come through. So many issues that we have to discuss today. Vaianu, it's now a Cat 3 cyclone. It's located northwest of Nadi. It's expected to move closer towards Kandavu by tomorrow. It's going to be bringing heavy rain, strong winds, and thunderstorms across Fiji. So there's heavy rain warning for the entire Fiji group. Gale force winds, strong winds, very rough seas. So mariners, please, no going out to sea. Flooding. We're seeing a lot of flooding over the weekend.
That's
and
right.
that was what some of the disturbing scenes are also. I think Fred and the other news media, Fiji Sun, Fiji One, FBC, and then Fiji Live and the others, and MaiTV, covering a lot of people struggling through their homes in flood. And a lot of it, they were blaming drainage. But, really people need to take precautions now.
Yeah.
So expected impacts, flooding of homes, roads and businesses, traffic disruptions, so take care of that, increased road risks. You don't want to get involved in an accident in this weather, and obviously high risk for all travel. So I think we've got some reports. I think already in Kandavu they're facing some impacts. Eh?
Yeah, I think in Nakasaleka we've been getting some reports from there. Our members are based there. In about 3 of the villages in Nakasaleka, we found out that they are not, the water infrastructure has broken down. So they're just getting water from one of the villages. There's 4 villages. They're getting it from Nakaunakoro, where water is still flowing. But the rest, 3 villages, Nakaunasele, Lomnikoro, Nakoranawa, these are villages in Nakasaleka where our members are. there are no water. I think they had problems with the evacuation center because the water rose very quickly, so they couldn't cross to where the evacuation center was. They had taken videos. I think there were waters had almost reached the doorstep of the evacuation center.
I saw that.
Yeah, and they were, they were writing back and they were saying, we really need to recheck the evacuation centers because it might not be safe.
It's not safe if the evacuation center is flooded. Yeah. Fred, I just want to bring in about the vulnerabilities of our infrastructure because we haven't actually been directly hit, but the last one that came by, flooding affected water supplies, affected electricity. I see there's some outages, reports of outages in Bainandi. So, I mean, we really need to be extra prepared now because in a direct hit, the effects we can already project would be severe.
Yes, thank you, Stan. I mean, obviously like every other editor, I had a very early morning today, staying in touch with our bureau in the West and also our managing editor for our digital platforms. Very, very fortunate that we were able to work things out in the morning, but understandably, there are other issues that we needed to contend with. The basics, we have experienced people on the ground, so the little things like making sure that the big four-wheel drives are available, making sure that it's stocked with water and rations in the event that somebody gets stuck. Also being mindful of the accessibility in terms of network and Wi-Fi and all of that, and when we close our office, when we're going to open the office and all of that. But as you said, this is just passing by and we're already having major issues. People sort of become complacent, and that's one of the great dangers that we have. We need to be mindful of the fact that flooding happens when the power goes down. It's going to have an impact on water, and there are other associated or connected challenges that we'll face. So it pays to be prepared. Like the Scout motto: be prepared.
Definitely. And just re-emphasizing, when the authorities say something from the Fiji government, the Ministry of Information, from the National Disaster Management Authority, take it seriously.
That's right.
I think because we hear some of these messages over and over again, we think, oh, it's just a normal message that comes. No, read it properly, take it seriously, because you'll be affected. I'm going to divert us now to the Constitution Review Commission. We're going to have, I'm told now from the Acting Attorney General, we're going to have municipal elections in September. We have elections that need to be held, generally need to be held by February 7th, I believe is the date.
Yes.
And then now we're told that we're going to change this constitution before that, so a referendum. That's quite a lot
Chock-a-block.
to manage.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of things to manage. A lot of it requires citizens' participation. So I'm not even sure if they, because sometimes it's really hard to even encourage them to come to consultations on the budget, for example. You look at the participation turnout, it's usually very low. So for me, I'm just worried about the legitimacy of any constitution being drafted right now, because of people's engagement, and I think they've already started, seeing the statement coming out from the Great Council of Chiefs. So half of us don't even know what the process will be. So we'll need to know that in order to prepare, communities to engage in this process.
I mean, it feels rushed.
Yeah, very rushed.
And it's
too many things happening.
Too many things happening. I think what do you think is driving it?
Maybe just a lack of preparation, I guess.
No, is it because they want to fulfill their campaign promise? I mean, what's the drive here? They really want to...
I mean, I don't think they came in with a clear plan, because some parts of the coalition came in with a plan. You could see that with the public finance management reform that we've been following as FCOSS, because from day one they had the economic summit, they had all of these things. But I think all of what they planned to do was rushed into the last 2 years, maybe the last year. Yeah? So it's a bit unfair on citizens. They should have done it from day one.
and the capacity of the elections office as well to handle this. I mean, we haven't had a referendum,
So it's a
so
big
it's a
deal.
new thing. So, but look, it's interesting. It's challenging, and we're seeing some of the submissions we'll get to. But before we discuss that, Fred, what's your view? How are you reading this? Everything that's happening with regards to these elections and referendums and. I mean, we are happy to have elections, local government and municipal elections and these issues. But how are you seeing it playing out?
Well, thank you, Stan. I think Vani is actually laid it out well. You know, there's, and I believe there has to be a bit more awareness. You know, I mean, it's great. It's great that we'll be having municipal elections in September, and also there's that. You know, we had discussions with the Fijian elections office, and you know the latest we can have the general elections is on February 6th next year. But you know, but in saying that, you know, you have a referendum, like smack bang in the middle of all of this. So pretty interesting scenarios coming up, and I think it must be mentioned here that, you know, with the municipal election, it's going to be under the, you know, the old system. You know, a lot of people are unaware of that. So I'm hopeful that, you know, the powers that be will pick up on the awareness and you know, make sure that people are well versed with what they're expected to do before they go out. But again, in saying that, very, very interesting scenario panning out, and I mean, I'm just
we'll be monitoring
playing a
all
waiting
that.
game like everyone else.
And the GCC making waves last week with the submission for the deed of cession to be included into the new constitution, either in the preamble or a separate section. The current constitution has no mention of the history of Fiji, that sort of thing. The customary laws and rights are to be re-included in the new constitution. Secular state to be repealed. Section 26(3), right to equality and freedom from discrimination, the words gender and sexual orientation to be deleted from this expression. They're talking about Section 41, the rights of children, protection from punishment, is to be amended and to include at the discretion of parents and teachers. And then also the GCC is to be the appointing authority of president and VP. Interesting submission.
Very interesting. I thought the common identity one, you know, where they proposed that the word Fijian is only reserved for Itoke. I thought that was quite, a bit of a shock for me. I think, you know, we've had time to get used to it, this generation, and I think that it has done a lot in terms of building social cohesion. So to suggest that we revert is a bit, I mean, I think they're not reading the room to say that maybe they don't understand the next generation may already have embraced that you know, we're all, you know, Fijian. And I'm just thinking about those who fought to have this recognized. I, for one,
although some would argue that you know, that term Fijian, when it was given to everybody, there was there enough consultation as well at that time with the previous government? Some would argue that, and then so again, look, I'm always feeling that we're a country keeping, still searching for our identity, or still trying to be comfortable with how we identify ourselves.
That's right.
And who's supposed to have which identity and what belongs to. I mean, I think this is going to be probably an ongoing issue. So you know, in some ways, whatever one thinks of the previous government, you know, a lot of people had embraced the Fijian, the whole national identity. But you know, I've always felt, because Fred, you know, we in the media, we're always reading, you know, reading everything that's happening. There's always been that element that Fijian should be reserved for the indigenous of the land, and then everyone else, Fiji Island. I mean, we've already been through that. So interesting, interesting submission by the GCC. I also wanted, Fred, any feedback you got? I mean, I saw the former Deputy Prime Minister, Mano Kamikamica, he responded and gave his view on that. So it's generating a range of views, and you know, it's a good discussion to have, right?
I mean, you know, these are submissions, and you know, and we seem to forget that you know, there's a consultation process in place, and people will come up with what they feel needs to be in there. And I suppose at the end of the day, it's about embracing that and then empowering people to come forward and talk about it. What we have right now is people are coming out with their submissions, and there are others out in the wings cutting them down before before anything's even been confirmed. I suppose it's just that understanding and appreciating that people have an opinion, and we all differ in our opinions of what's right and what's wrong. So I suppose at the end of the day, it's about, as I said, embracing that and allowing people to have their say.
I guess for me, is understanding what the process is.
Yes.
They haven't even come out
also how
about
did
that.
the GCC came up with their submission and who
Yeah.
did they consult? That would be interesting to know as
Yeah.
well.
But also that the CRC, we haven't, like for FCOSS or NGOs for that matter, there hasn't been any, advertisements to say we've opened up consultations. So have they started just seeking out different groups?
Stakeholders,
It has to be an open process. Okay, there's 5 of us now that's been appointed to a commission. This is the 3 general phases or the 4, general phases of our work. We're going to start with this. We're going to then go on to this. Nothing like that has come out. So, the CRC has to be able to open that up to ensure that there is transparency so that they're not seen to be favoring a group and there's legitimacy in this process.
Well, the chiefs, before the last government took out the GCC, they've been involved in a lot of these, these discussions. They really, it's as chiefs, they consult amongst themselves.
Yes.
So we wonder, that's the process that's been in place. Can that process be improved? I mean, it's all up to them how they come up with their submissions. And they also have, in the past, were involved in were the ones that appointed the president. So that's going to be a discussion now that's been, 15, 16, 20 years since they've last appointed a president, and whether the people of Fiji still feel that they have a role or should have a role, or we have moved on to a more democratic process. A lot of interesting discussions going on. I'd like to thank you, Fred, Wesley, for the editor-in-chief of the Fiji Times, for joining me. Vani, it's been a pleasure having this conversation, really great. And we look forward to having you more on our show in the future. We'll be back after the short break, but first joining Alfonso's with some of the great products at Extra Supermarket.
Bulwanaka people, and welcome to Extra Supermarket, your one-stop shop for all your essentials. Now let's check out what's in store. Now first up, we've got apple peanut butter. Now this is available in both creamy and crunchy in 340 gram containers and 1 kg. Love texture, go crunchy, prefer smooth and spreadable, Creamy's got you covered. Perfect for toast, sandwiches, baking, or even a quick protein boost straight from the spoon. And with sizes for every household, you can choose what fits your needs and your budget. Now you can add authentic Asian cooking taste to your food with the Apple sauce range. When it comes to sauces, Apple has you covered with a full range. Superior light soy sauce for a lighter balanced taste, superior dark soy sauce for richer color and deeper flavor, and the mushroom dark soy sauce adding that extra umami kick. And don't forget the Apple hoisin sauce, thick, sweet and perfect for dipping, glazing or stir fry magic. Now whether you're cooking at home, experimenting or meal prepping, Apple will give you the flavor base to do it all. And finally, stay refreshed and cool in this hot Fiji weather with Juicy Crush. Available in 250 ml bottles like apple and orange, perfect on the go. Or grab the 2-liter family size in flavors like orange and 10 fruits, great for sharing at home. Now this is refreshing, fruity and always a great choice. Now more choices, more value and more reasons to shop smart. Everything you need is right here at Extra.
Welcome back. You're watching The Brunch on MaiTV. Hope you're enjoying the show. I feel a bit alone in the studio without Jackie, who ditched me this morning. But we'll cross live to Lucy Mbanduve now with a sports update. Good morning, Lucy.
Morning, Stan.
All right. I know there were a number of sporting competitions over the long weekend. What were some of the highlights from that? Easter's a time when a lot of sports people really go out and compete. So just give an overview of what happened over the weekend.
Stan, you're right. There were a couple of games that were held, tournaments around the country. There was the Waitui Regatta at Wailolo Beach. It saw the coming together of teams from as far as Australia and around the Oceania region. That happened on the weekend at Wailolo Beach. In Suva, they had the Easter Volleyball Championships, and the Nasinu side that's mainly made up of players from the police team, won the men's category, and after winning, they dedicated it to the late Constable Peneasi Radangi, who passed away earlier this year. In the women's team, Suva 1 beat Lautoka, and Suva 1 took the top. They beat Lautoka, to take the top prize. Also in Lautoka at Nandovu Park, they had the Loloma Heights Sevens tournament. It saw the coming together of a lot of grassroots sevens teams from around the country. And the Yarra Chiefs of Malolo took out the top honors in that tournament after beating Warden's Gold 19 points to 10. Stan.
That's a great summary, Lucy. I guess I watched a bit of the footage of the Easter Volleyball Championship. Some really, really high-level action. It was really great to watch. And it was quite encouraging or inspiring to see, despite the weather, our athletes, our sports people taking the time out and the commitment to leave the comfort of their homes and put themselves out there. There's something inspiring about our sports people. Now, looking ahead to this Saturday, Lucy, Bula FC is playing their first home game in Ba this Sunday in the OFC Pro League Series. Yes. That's going to be big.
Yes, Stan. Less than 5 days before we take on our own local warriors, the Bula FC at the 4R Stadium in Govind Park in Ba. This is the beginning of a series of home games for Bula FC. On the 15th also, Stan, they play South Melbourne, and on the 18th, Auckland FC, all at Govind Park in Ba, the 4R Stadium. Speaking to Nazia Ali and the team at Bula FC, they're really looking forward, and ticket sales are good. And there should be a strong crowd there on Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Currently, the table standing so far, Auckland FC leads the table, and then followed by South Melbourne, and then Bula FC sits at third. Oh. And then Solomon Kings and Vanuatu United FC. So Bula FC is hoping that with the home crowd advantage this weekend, they will be able to secure a win, and move up the ladder. So it's all happening at the 4R Stadium, Stan, at Govind Park in Ba this Sunday at 7 p.m.
That's really encouraging. Third, I didn't know that. I thought that they were, they were struggling early at some stage, that we were following on. This is really going to be really good chance for soccer fans in Fiji to get some of that another level of action, that professional league action that's being developed here in Oceania and that Fiji is part of. And just encouraging to hear that they are in third. And I think with these home games, if we can have that Ndrua kind of effect when we win. But speaking of the Ndrua, those overseas games are still a challenge for us, Lucy. I mean, that was hard to watch that game on Saturday.
Yes, Stan. Still cannot secure a win away from Fiji. And in a press conference on Friday evening, in Christchurch, coach Glenn Jackson said they They obviously did stick to plan, and they were overpowered by a very strong Crusaders side on Friday night. There were also some changes in the week to the team. They lost captain Frank Lomani to an ankle injury. He's been ruled out for 3 weeks. And then the two wingers, Epeli Momo and Ponipatalo Stan, they've been ruled out for the rest of the season. Epeli Momo with a knee injury, and he's been replaced by Chochi Nasova, and Ponipatalo Nimasi, rather, he's been ruled out with a broken arm. So he's out for the rest of the season, and we all know that, as it was in the news, Pony will leave at the end of the season to join Sale Sharks in England. So I think that was the last we saw of Pony in the game against the Blues 2 weeks ago. But they play the Western Force this weekend on Saturday at 3:35 p.m. at Latokas Churchill Park. And the Force are at 10th place, and the Fijian Rua is currently sitting at 9th place. So it's the two 9th and 10th places, the players, they're meeting this weekend, this Saturday at Churchill Park in Lautoka at 3:35 p.m.
Yes, an opportunity for us to basically get back on track, recover our season, some would say. Longanimasi, Momo, and Frank Lomani, very key players this season. Some of our most effective, some of our strike weapons. I'm pretty concerned now with Frank, with the amount of injuries he's been getting, and whether we may consider like really rehabilitating him and not putting him at risk, because there's some big national duties coming up with Nations Cup and stuff. There was a moment there at around 68th minute, I think, Lucy, where there's already 64 points, and I was getting concerned. You know how the Crusaders usually score 2-3 tries in the last 10 minutes. But I was happy that we held them that last 10, 12 minutes until they scored again after full time. So there was a brave defense, some brave defense in the last 10 to 12 minutes that was encouraging. But again, like hard to watch, and questions need to be asked now of the coaching panel, how they've been dealing with this. We've had this issue for a long time. Why haven't we been able to solve it? So any other final thoughts from you before we move on, Lucy?
Stan, at the beginning of the year at the Rua Content Day, they said that they were focused on trying to make a difference this year, because this is no longer the maiden season. It's the 5th year for the Rua. So, they were hoping that results would be a bit different, but like as we've seen in the last games, and there's only 7 more games this season, Stan. So hopefully, fingers crossed that there will be some changes, in the result, in the scores that we will see from here on out. They've got 3 more home games, and then there's 4 away games, and that's the 2026 season for Super Rugby Pacific.
Great comprehensive overview. Thank you, Lucy, for joining us.
Understand.
We'll take a look now at our shot of the day. Picture with. Okay, where's the picture of the day? Has that come up? This was taken at Nangandoa village in Bua. I'm told that this river actually flows from the famous Seatura Mountains. I know many of our older viewers will be very familiar with the Seatura name, as it features in some famous Fijian songs, mekes, and poetry. It was known to be a refuge for chiefs and their families during tribal wars hundreds of years ago. Beautiful photo. That picture was sent in by Tomasi Lovo Sr., a former national rugby player for Fiji and Tonga, who is also from the village of Nangandoa. If you have a picture or video you'd like featured on the show, please send it to us on the MaiTV Facebook page or email brunch@mytvfiji.com. We'd also like to get your views on our poll question that is on the MaiTV Facebook page. Okay, this week we are asking, are you concerned that artificial intelligence and deepfakes will be successfully used to manipulate voters and spread misinformation during the 2026 election campaign? To let us know what you think, follow us on Facebook and participate in our poll question that is pinned at the top of the MaiTV Facebook page. That's a very important question. It's already happening right now. Deepfakes, artificial intelligence, plenty of manipulation that's happening. But that's all we have time for today. Before I go, a kind reminder. With extreme weather conditions we are currently facing, please be extra vigilant over the next few days. Stay away from flooded streams and rivers. Pay extra attention to your tourist movements, drive safely on our roads, and please stay up to date with latest advisories being put out by the various government agencies. I'm Stanley Simpson on The Brunch Show. Vinaka.